I've seen a lot of comments that are defensive and that are reactionary when it comes to privilege. The first thing is, hey, everybody has the same rights under the law, nobody's privileged. That's one perspective. And in a perfect world, there would be truth to that. So the problem, potentially, and in reality, is that laws are only an attempt to codify morality. And the way people feel has nothing to do with the laws on the books. The way people behave very often has nothing to do with the laws on the books, right? And let me give you another perspective that I hear a lot regarding privilege. Hey, I had to struggle too. I wasn't privileged. I didn't have any privilege. I worked for everything I have. And so I believe that perspective comes from the idea that privilege is like a winning lotto ticket. That if you are financially privileged, which of course is a privilege, if you're especially born into a wealthy family, then chances are you might be privileged for the rest of your life in terms of finance. But that's only one type of privilege. The type of privilege that I think about most of the time is the privilege of being able to say, why do you keep talking about race? If you just stop talking about race, it would go away, right? But that's dumb because that's like saying if you stop talking about cancer, it'll disappear. Racism is a disease in America, and it keeps growing in the dark. And only by bringing it to light has anything ever been done regarding racism in America. And when I say things have been done, again, I mean laws, because there was a long time in America where we did not want to see Black and brown people succeed. And it's shocking to me that in my lifetime, being that I was born in 1964, there were still laws on the books that only favored Caucasians, right? So this is an ancient history. I don't feel ancient at 61, so I don't think it's ancient history, right? So some of what privilege looks like is what you don't have to be bothered thinking about, what you never have to worry about. The fact that if you're Caucasian and you have a child that's getting their driver license for the first time, you don't have to have the conversation with that child about how not to get ended by police officers if they pull you over. That's a talk that I had to have with my son. And I hated having to have it. I hate that that is the world that I exist in, where I had to look at my teenage son and say, here's the behavior that you have to follow to make sure that a police officer won't get angry and end your life. And for every Caucasian that I've ever spoken to about this, they have admitted that it didn't even occur to them to have that conversation with their child. Like they had the, what do you do when you get pulled over conversation, but it was very different than the conversation that I had to have. They would be like, get your license ready, get your insurance card ready, and speak politely to the officer. And that was pretty much the end of the conversation. And I, as a person who grew up traumatized in a very, very racist country, I had to have the fear that ran through me when I got pulled over that this might be the last few moments of my life. And if you don't think that that's a real thing, you have not been paying attention to the last 400 years of history in America. You could get strung up just for being too dark on a sunny day. And, That's just real. And if you don't believe that, I've got nothing for you. I'm not going to try to convince you of the reality that's right in your fucking face. This is America. This is what has gone on in America. This still goes on in America. And Dump has legitimized racism. So if you can sit around and say, I'm not worried because I'm an American citizen, that's a privilege. If you can say, I don't feel like talking about racism today, that's a privilege. I don't have that privilege. And it's not a woe is me victim kind of thing. It's just reality. I don't have the privilege of ignoring the reality of racism in America. And you're not a bad person if you do. That was just luck of the draw, right? So it's not a decision you made. It's not that you're out here doing fucked up things. You just happen to be born in a country at the right shade of skin tone. So you're not wrong, and when you say, hey, I've never owned people and I've never done that, that's all true. And I wouldn't try to blame you for the sins of your fathers. You're still benefiting from those sins. America was created for you. It was not created for me. America hates me and people who look like me. And that's just a reality, right? So that doesn't mean that I can't have fun, that I can't have good friends, that I can't enjoy my life. It just means that there's a specter that's floating over my head that's not floating over your head. So it's okay if you're privileged. It's not your fault. It's not your doing. But again, if you don't have to worry about certain things, if you never have to concern yourself with certain topics, or are never afraid of what one angry person can do to you because they have a badge or they have some kind of authority over you, good for you. That's fantastic. But try to remember that there are people that don't have that privilege.